Well, welcome back, my friends. Welcome back to On to Purpose over a Paycheck podcast. Yes, we have been doing already 2 weeks of recording, and it's been absolutely crazy sharing the story of what's going on in life in general. And so, hope you're all having a great time listening to the podcast, as well as taking away some nuggets of knowledge of what I'm sharing in my journey of leaving my paycheck, my secure paycheck, to pursue my purpose in life as a coach, as well as just a simple entrepreneur, sharing, creating the life that I want, right? Creating the life that I want and everything that goes with it. So, welcome. I want to say one thing. I do appreciate you pushing that play button and continuing on with the journey with me. We have been talking about a lot of different things. We've really been focusing on how our nervous system really affects when we make choices that are taking us out of our comfort zone. All right, so welcome. All right, so today's episode is called Momentum Doesn't Require Urgency. All right, we're gonna dive in about the idea that momentum doesn't require urgency. Gotta have my coffee, friends. Gotta have my coffee. So, all right, so if you've ever felt that subtle pressure creeping in back lately when you are making a shift in your life, if you're making a drastic change in your life and you're moving from the security of getting a paycheck every 2 weeks, every month to pursue your purpose, all right, that subtle pressure, it might start creeping back. Even when you're doing the aligned work, right? Even when you're doing the aligned work. So this episode for you here is about that. We're going to dive into it. And again, the title is Momentum Doesn't Require That Urgency. Because I'm going to say, for many people, the moment things start to move in this transition, when you start moving out of going to work 9 to 5 and then coming in and doing your own thing, urgency will sneak in quietly. All right, the urgency will sneak in quietly. Now, the urgency at times can feel like momentum. All right, the urgency will feel like you're making some movements and there's that momentum going on, but I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to tell you right now, they are not the same thing. Okay, urgency and momentum are not the same thing. What happens is urgency often sounds responsible. All right, when we have that urgency, it'll tell us that we feel responsible. It says, don't fall behind. Now's the moment. Push while you can. Okay, push while you can. And at the beginning, it looks like progress for you, right? You've got all these activities going on. You're starting to see more output, and you're starting to make more decisions. So it looks like progress for you. It looks like some progress is being made, but I'm going to tell you right now that urgency isn't about the direction of where you're going, all right? It is about the fear of losing ground. That's what urgency is. It's not direction. It's that fear of the losing the ground, right? And we know that fear-driven moments don't create sustainability. They create some type of pressure in you. So when you're doing the work and you're making that shift, you're going to start thinking, well, I'm being very productive. I'm making some choices. I'm doing some things. But in all honesty, friend, is that the fear-driven moment, it won't create that sustainability. It will start to create pressure for you, right? Growing up, a lot of us were trained in urgency. Think about this. Take a moment and just step back and think about how we have been, I like to use the word domesticated, how we've been domesticated about urgency. We have deadlines. We have performance matrix that we have to fulfill at work. We have all these external expectations, or there is some type of productivity culture that we live in, right? And that's where we start to develop the sense of urgency. So when we decide to say, I'm done with the 9 to 5 job, I'm going to move out, I'm going to become my own entrepreneur, I'm going to become my own boss, and I'm going to leave this paycheck that has brought security for me. When we leave those systems, our body does not immediately forget them, right? Because again, we have been instilled with these mechanics. We carry this urgency inside of us, and even when the environment changes, that doesn't mean that you're regressing. What you're doing is you're starting to rewire things. You're starting to rewire your nervous system. You're starting to rewire your brain mechanics because you're starting to approach things differently. So here is the key distinction. Urgency feels tight. It feels compressed, and at times it's going to feel demanding. That's urgency. But when you look at momentum, momentum feels spacious, it feels grounded, and it feels repeatable. Okay? That's the difference between urgency and momentum. Urgency is going to ask you a question like, how fast can I get there? When you decide to move out of your security of having that 9 to 5 job and receiving a paycheck, urgency, because we've been trained in it so much, urgency is going to ask you, how fast can I get there, right? But momentum is going to ask you a whole different question. Momentum is going to ask you, how can I keep going without losing myself? And I'm going to tell you something. Your body knows the difference. Your body knows the difference if you stop and you listen. Your body knows the difference between the urgency, and your body knows the difference between your momentum, right? So why urgency burns the trust in us is because urgency often overrides discernment. Urgency will often override discernment, right? It'll lead you to saying things like, you're going to say yes to things quickly, okay? You're going to start skipping the rest that you need. You're going to start overcommitting yourself, and you're going to ignore warning signs. You're going to start ignoring these early warning signs that may start popping up when you've made that shift, because you're really not understanding the idea between urgency as well as your momentum. And every time you do that, you start to teach yourself that my limits don't matter. When you start looking at the momentum of it, of the work that you're doing, leaving your paycheck to do your purpose, you're going to start to understand that your limits really don't matter. And what happens, that erodes self-trust, even if progress looks good on the outside. Okay? So, real momentum isn't dramatic. Too many times like I said, we expect these big productions, these big fireworks and everything to go on, right? When you decide that I'm going to become my own boss, I'm going to start doing things for myself. I'm going to be in control of my schedule. I'm going to make more money than I made before. What happens is real momentum does not give you a dramatic show. It's building through your consistent rhythms, the honest pacing, returning to the work, and adjusting without panic. That's what real momentum does. And the thing about it is that real momentum grows quietly because it's rooted in your integrity, not in the adrenaline. Okay? It's rooted in your integrity, not your adrenaline. So, as you're listening to this, and noticing that you have this pressure creeping in, trust me, I've been there since I made the choice, December 19th, to leave my $85,000 job that I was secured with, getting that secure paycheck, knowing that I'm showing up to work, doing someone else's work, what they want me to do, the tasks they want me to do that I may not be aligned with. I have that comfortability. I feel comfortable. I'm like, okay, I got this, right? But once you make the shift to start being your own boss, starting doing the things that you have passion for, all right, you're going to start noticing that some pressure is creeping in, right? So I want you to pause, and I'm going to ask you this question. Is this urgency or is this alignment? What you're feeling when you make this shift, is this urgency or is this alignment? Because remember, they're two different things. I want you to know that you are allowed to slow down, even when things are working. When you've got that flow going on, things are rolling out the way you like it, you're getting excited, you're seeing it. I want you to know that it's okay to slow down. I also want you to know that you need to protect your energy, even when opportunities appear. Again, don't overcommit, because the more you start overcommitting, that's where you're going to start seeing that pressure and you're going to lose the momentum, right? So again, protect your energy even when the opportunities appear. Now, momentum doesn't appear when you pause, okay? Write that down. Momentum doesn't appear when you pause. Urgency does. That's when urgency will start to appear, is when you start to make those pauses. You're going to start to feel like, well, I've got to do something. I can't, a day in the schedule, sometimes it's like you do a couple of bit of work in the morning, you get up, you have your morning routine, and then you're out doing your work and everything. You come home and you work for a couple of hours because that's kind of the schedule that you've put yourself into. And then when you take a pause and you're like, okay, I'm going to sit in silence for a while, I'm going to take a little break, you start feeling this urgency like, well, I got to do something. I got to keep going. I got to keep going. I can't do that, right? That's when urgency sets in. That's when you start to feel that pressure, and it's crazy. But momentum's a whole different beast on its own. And momentum is, it's okay to pause. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to say no. You need to protect your energy. All right? You need to protect the work that you're doing because you're fully committed to it right now. All right? One of the hardest shifts that you're going to find is trusting that slow forward motion still count. That's going to be one of the hardest things that you're going to identify and you're going to realize, is that trusting that slow forward motion still counts. That you don't have to rush to validate your progress. You are making progress. When you're showing up, you're making progress. Don't get stuck on the validation of it, right? That steadiness is not stagnation. In fact, that steadiness is what allows the momentum to compound. Remember, think about the compound effect. Every little thing. The good book that I like to read, that I've read before, was Atomic Habits. And James Cleary really talks about how doing 1% each time starts to build that compound effect. It builds on the other, right? That's what momentum does. Every time that you have that steadiness going, it allows the momentum to start to slowly build. And you're going to, before you know it, you're going to be achieving other things that you want to achieve. So just keep that in consideration when you're doing it. Now, productivity doesn't equal speed. It equals the continuity. All right? Let me say that again. Productivity doesn't equal speed. It equals the continuity. Some questions. Can you keep showing up tomorrow? Remember, consistency. Show up. Can you sustain this next week? Are you able to do it again next week? Can you still feel like yourself in the process, or are you losing yourself? These are some deep-rooted questions you have to ask yourself when you are looking at the idea of being productive, right? Productivity, again, is the continuity of getting things done. Can you show up tomorrow? Can you sustain this energy? Can you sustain this work next week? And can you still feel like yourself in the process? Those questions matter more than how fast you're moving. Okay, those questions matter so much more than how fast you're moving in this new shift that you're taking. So instead of asking yourself, how fast should I go? Instead of asking that question of how fast should I go, you need to start asking yourself this question of what pace lets me stay regulated and consistent. You need to find a pace. When I was a cross-country coach, that is one thing that I told my runners. Even when I trained for a half marathon, it wasn't how fast I go, because I know if I go really, really fast, I'm going to burn out quick, right? I'm going to get exhausted. My energy is going to get depleted. I'm not going to have that consistent energy that I need to keep going, right? What I needed to do is, I need to tell them, is you need to find a pace, because when you find that pace, it's going to help you stay regulated and it's going to help you stay consistent, right? There might be times that you need to push a little faster, right, to speed up a little bit, and that's okay. But the process itself is that you need to find that pace that's going to keep you regulated as well as consistent. All right. The answer will change as you grow. That's what I'm saying there. The answers will change as you grow. But listening is part of the whole alignment. Again, listening. You have to listen to your body. You have to listen to your intuition. You have to listen to your inner self. Your higher self is going to guide you because you are in alignment of what you're trying to achieve, right? So you really got to think about how that is all rolling out for you, and you really got to stay focused in it, because you can lose yourself in the whole process, or you can find yourself, like we've talked in a couple episodes in the past about how easily it can be where you just lose yourself and you say, this isn't working anymore. I don't like this anymore. I'm done with it. All of that stuff, right? That's what happens. So you got to be very careful with that. Okay? Be very careful with that. All right. So our next episode that we're going to talk about is we're going to be looking a little bit more about working from the wholeness and not proving, and how old validation patterns that we have been so used to can sneak back into our growth. Understand this. We are humans. We have habits. We are creatures of habit, right? So in our next episode, we're going to talk about working from the wholeness and not trying to prove ourselves as well as prove to others. And then we're going to start to recognize these old validation patterns that will start to appear, right? Until we start facing the beasts and we start making changes, recognizing, naming them, and then working through them, all right, they're going to start coming back into our growth. This is crazy, right? I'm excited about it. All right, as always, if you're not following the podcast, make sure that you are following it. Make sure you are giving us a rating, letting us know what you like about the podcast, or if there are any questions that have come up during the last 2 weeks of our show. Just feel free to leave a rating, leave a question, reach out to me and my social medias. The link is in the bio, so you can always check out that. And I usually get back to my viewers or my people who are listening. I usually respond to them and kind of coach them if they have any questions about what we're talking about. All right. Also, don't forget that I do have 3 ebooks now available for purchase. The first one is called Aligned. Aligned is the foundational understanding of the law of attraction in yourself. It's a really good ebook that allows you to really dive in. If you don't know much about the law of attraction or how manifestation works, Aligned is a really good book for you there. So that is available in my link tree. The other book is called Shift. That one is noticing and understanding that your energy, frequency, and vibration are so important when you're doing work, especially when you're trying to manifest things. So that's available as well too. There is a bundle package where you can buy both of the books. And then I just created a week ago, I just now put it up for sale. It is a 30-day program. It is called Manifest Like You Mean It. And that is a 30-day self-paced program. All right. It's an ebook every day. It has some coaching tips. It has some limiting beliefs that we're going to tackle for the day, as well as some practices and some activities that you can put into practice so you can start noticing things. And then it's just got some really good journal prompts to guide you when you're doing the work, right? So that's the 30-day program. It is a self-paced program. It is an ebook right now. And so that is available, and it's called Manifesting Like You Mean It, right? Or Manifesting Like You Mean It. It's a really good book. I've been doing it myself. So the thing is like all my ebooks, those are written from my experience, right? Things that have worked, things that I've noticed, things that I have tweaked. So those are available as well. Coming up, I'm going to be starting a membership at the end of January. I'm still working out the techniques of it, of how that's going to look like, as well as the strategies. And so that's going to be coming up at the end of January. And I'll give you more information down the road. So that way, that one's going to have more of group coaching. And that one's going to be more intimate with my followers, because we're going to work together. There's always going to be some master classes, all of that stuff. And so that membership is coming up here in just a few weeks. I'm going to go ahead and release it so that people can start joining. So, all right. So it's something to remember for this episode. Momentum doesn't need urgency. Momentum needs your trust, it needs your repetition, and it needs your care. Okay? So when we make the shift from leaving our 9-to-5 job to become our own boss, understand that you're going to deal with momentum versus urgency. Momentum doesn't need urgency. It needs trust, repetition, and care. And as I always say, I'll talk to you soon on the next episode.